Well, hi. Let's see, where were we? Ah, yes, okay. We are driving around in a sweltering van, enveloped in the toe-curdling stench of the rotting corpse next to me. Well, we're looking desperately for a receptacle, and finally find one with, of all things, a happy face painted on it. Seems it was stationed at the opening of a drive-through window at McDonald's. It was wrong. I knew it, but at that point I just didn't care. So, inconspicuously as possible, la 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 la, I sidled up next to the barrel. I took the towel with its revolting contents and just casually dropped it in. And then, just to look normal, I drove on up and ordered a Happy Meal. Well, I could tell by the growing grimace and watering eyes, of the order taker that he was picking up on the abnormally putrid stench coming out of the van, and, now from their own little smiley-faced trash can. That's right. Oh, would anyone else be able to come through the drive-in that day? Probably not. No. Their business was going to drop off dramatically, and I felt bad. Then I felt scared. Was what I did illegal, maybe? Ooh. No, best to beat a hasty retreat to the car wash. That's right. So I paid for food that, I couldn't even look at, and reflected that this was likely McDonald's last Happy Meal of the day. Now, I was also going to tell you the story of the time I went to extraordinary lengths to teach a family of mourning doves how to be better mourning doves. The audacity of it. Of course, ultimately, the doves taught me how to be a better human. But that's a longish story, and we'll save that for another time. I'd like to close by telling you a brief story of how I learned what it meant to be a good mentor. Now, I hope this resonates for those of you who are mentoring others. It doesn't matter what discipline. It's all the same. The message is the same. Okay, so this happened a long time ago when I was new in rehabbing and very fortunate to have a mentor who had decades of experience and was actually an icon in the extended community. Well, one day I made an egregious mistake. No one died, but it was close. So I called my mentor to explain the situation and tell her of my decision to just pack it in. Yup, I was moving on out. And I just felt that I wasn't suited to the vocation and I should leave it to people better qualified. Well, she said, of course, it was my decision, but she wanted to tell me something that had happened to her recently. Well, it seems that she was looking after a group of possum litters, baby possums who had lost their mothers. She had quite a few different litters. And it came to be laundry day. Well, as an aside, baby possums, also known as joeys, are very messy little creatures. They grow out of it and become almost fastidious, rather like a cat. But as babies, it can be quite a mess. Okay, so she's going around and she's collecting the dirty bedding and putting it in the wash. Well, it wasn't until some time later that she notices one of the litters is missing. Seems she had scooped it up with the bedding and run it through the wash. Well, this was stunning. In my naivety, I asked, were they all right? And after a pause, she said, no, they were not all right. No. This well-respected woman, this acknowledged, preeminent authority in the field, had run a bunch of babies through a washing machine. Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I've comforted myself with saying, at least I never did anything as bad as that, which of course is open to debate, but she was a legend. So, because she had the courage to reveal that to me, I was able to regain heart, to recommit to the cause, and to continue to get better and better. I thought you wanted that. Don't you want that? No? No? All right. How about this? To get better and better, because that's what one does with practice and experience. Maybe? All right, you want to go. That's fine. All right, so we get better with practice and experience, but certainly are rough patches that we have to go through. And so now when I mentor people, I make it a point to share my egregious mistakes because I understand how important it is to accept that we are all fallible. Mistakes will be made, and we can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and press on. Hopefully, by the grace of Pearl, without killing anyone in the process. Now, there are some of you who are thinking of writing in and telling me about egregious mistakes that you or someone else has made in animal rescue. Don't do that. Absolutely not. No. Instead, just sit down and have a plate of spaghetti. Until next time. Bye. Bye-bye.